So what's my future?
You don't have one.
Halloween Horror Nights has a long history of unused concepts. Fans of the event often lament content that has been nixed throughout the history of Halloween Horror Nights for one reason or another. One particular area of note is that of unused icons. There are quite a few icons who have been conceived only to have their moment in the spotlight stripped away. Eddie, Cindy, and the Terror Queen, while originally conceived to host their respective events, have since become fan favorites in their own right. Each has appeared at various events in some capacity, showing up in both houses and scare zones. Most recently, all three appeared at Halloween Horror Nights 30. With a long history of the event, there have been a lot of abandoned concepts over the years. While most will stay hidden, sometimes things do make it into the Horror Nights ether. Back in 2007, Halloween Horror Nights decided to go a bit heavy in the IP department. Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, and Leatherface would eventually headline the event, and each would get their own houses. To help, Jack the Clown would be the one responsible for bringing them all together. Taking a page from his own morbid history, Jack presented the Carnival of Carnage as the year's theme. The year did lean into the carnival aspect very heavily. The advertisements, online pre-event build-up, and even the Universal Archway would all reflect this. Jack himself would also get a makeover, donning a ringleader outfit to preside over the carnival. After the dust settled, work would of course begin on HHN 2008. In the early planning stages for the event, Halloween Horror Nights legend Mike Aiello had something pretty grand in mind. With 2007 featuring IPs pretty heavily, Aiello conjured up an original backstory to tie both Halloween Horror Nights 2007 and 2008 together. In addition, a new icon would be born, something that hadn't occurred since 2005. HHN 2008 would have looked very different if the original plans had gone through. At the Spooky Empire convention in 2015, Mike Aiello revealed exactly what would have taken place. So who was Nathaniel Crowe? As it turns out, Mr. Crowe was the owner of the land that Jack the Clown decided to lay down stakes for the Carnival of Carnage. According to the backstory, Nathaniel purchased the land despite its very grisly past. Apparently the land itself was essentially dead and the locals considered it cursed.
It had been a long and bloody history, this land, used for early pagan rituals. Many lives were sacrificed in the name of Samhain. For centuries since then, no living thing has prospered on this land.
There was even an old funeral home which resided there that had been burned to the ground by the locals, killing a murderous, grave-robbing caretaker inside. Nathaniel tried to use the land anyway, but was only able to grow rotting pumpkins, which he did in fact sell for cheap, but it wasn't enough. In their initial meeting, Jack the Clown could sense that there was something very wrong with the land, which he took a liking to.
Nathaniel Crowe remembered it well. He remembered the day he met the ringmaster. The clown, whose face was masked in the shadows of night, simply asked for his land. He said that this place just seemed right.
Even when he agreed to allow Jack to use the land, Crowe warned Jack about the cursed space. Of course, Jack the Clown was very much counting on it for the carnival. Using Crowe's frustration about the lack of prosperity the land provided, Jack promised his carnival would finally offer Nathaniel payback for his hard work with unimaginable power.
He told Nathaniel that the land has put his blood, sweat, and tears, and would finally pay him back with unimaginable power.
Crowe, of course, was skeptical, and the carnival kicked off. For Nathaniel, as the carnival ran, he became transfixed by the horrors that took place.
As though it happened overnight, the carnival opened. The wonders the clown spoke of were amazing to Nathaniel, and in the way hell is wondrous to those who wish nothing else but to see its evils and bask in its flames. The dark carnival seduced Nathaniel in ways that cannot be explained. Temptation and sin filled his soul with sights and sounds the devil himself would consider morbid. It opened his mind to evils no man should want to survive through, but Nathaniel did survive.
He watched as patron after patron met untimely ends, and he himself began to wonder why he was not a part of the carnage. He eventually asked Jack why he was allowed to live while everyone else did not.
Why do you allow me to live when all around me perishes at your hands? Nathaniel asked this ringmaster. You'll see, Crowe, you'll see.
After the carnival had left, Nathaniel would find himself gazing at the empty field in anger. He was upset that Jack's promise of the field finally repaying him back had not come to pass. In one moment, he was filled with so much rage that his tightly clenched fist drew blood, which seeped into the ground below.
His fist clenched with anger. He promised me, he whispered through his teeth. Hatred filled his soul as he lamented on power and wishes the clown prince vowed him he had not received. For the first time, he felt cold. His hands now bled from being clenched so tightly, feeling the dark liquid run down his palms and drip into the soft soil below. Nathaniel's eyes caught a faded carnival poster flapping in the breeze. A large gust ripped it from a blood-stained telephone pole it was attached to. Nathaniel followed the tattered poster with his eyes as it drifted effortlessly in the wind, up and down, finally resting in the palm of his bloody hand. However, now Nathaniel's surprised the poster was blank. No longer did it advertise Carnival of Carnage. Instead, he noticed his blood soaking into the parchment. Like running down glass, his blood fanned along the paper's fibers, forming letters. And it spelled this: forgotten are the ways of old, tradition's blood, black and cold. Up through dirt, roots grow and burst, evils return, you'll see what came first. When ravens and crows made the night black, pumpkins were carved to keep evil back. When the howl of the wind sent shivers up spines, graves of our dead covered in vines. When black cats crossed paths and wolves howl, and true witches did more than laugh and scowl. Your time has come, Nathaniel Crowe. Outside the box, you'll think, you'll grow. Terror's traditions, its ways you will demand. Halloween's true self is at hand.
All of the HHN icons up until that point, Jack, the caretaker, the director, and the storyteller, begin to flood Crowe's mind and visions, each displaying something or doing something iconic to them.
Nathaniel's mind raced with visions. He heard, think outside the box. Ringmaster cranks a jack in the box. We are the four. You will be my finest work. A film director lines up his shot. But 5 men will become a true tale of terror. An old woman brandishes a pair of scissors. Nathaniel Crowe. The caretaker produces a pocket watch. Your time has come.
These visions quickly turn into one of Crowe himself, a grotesque face with missing eyes and a bit like a jack-o'-lantern.
The final vision Nathaniel saw in his own face, displaying the most evil expression. Crowe's eyes disappeared and blackness replaced him. His jaw fell agape and candlelight appeared deep in his throat.
After a raven's call snaps him out of his vision, Nathaniel is met with a horde of pumpkins. The same rotting pumpkins that he used to sell, all now with terrifying faces carved into them, staring at him. Perched behind those pumpkins, a murder of crows, looked on with glowing red eyes. The birds would abruptly fly towards him.
Instinctively, Nathaniel tried to get up. However, his cursed land had something different in mind. Mangled and porous fruit shot to the ground with great force and stabbed through Nathaniel's appendages, pinning him. The chorus of crows flying towards him muffled his cries of pain. Landing on top of Nathaniel, the crows began pecking at his clothing and flesh. Digging and clawing, the crows tore deep into Nathaniel. He was being transformed. Every crow that removed a piece of flesh, large or small, another was at the ready to replace it with a piece of rotten pumpkin and straw. Quickly and meticulously, the crows ripped and replaced Nathaniel's body. The roots of earth that had once imprisoned Nathaniel now began wrapping into his hands and feet, creating earthy claws. While a crow pecked out his left eye, the ground forced Nathaniel into an upright position. Looking now like a grotesque marionette, the birds continued to peck away. His screams slowly transformed from a gritty liquid sound to a deep, resonant bellow as roots ripped through his neck, grabbing his jaw and breaking it, forcing it downward towards his chest. The skin around stretching and tearing as another crow places a candle from a nearby pumpkin into his mouth. The candle's flame ignites a bright orange, its flickers lighting inside. One by one, the crows left the form that was once Nathaniel Crowe and returned perched atop the rotting pumpkins. Landing, they gazed at what they had created. Halloween itself. All the fears, blood, revelry, and traditions that make up that eve so hallowed was infused into the body of a man. The roots finally lowered his body to the ground as 2 crows carried a large brown duster, their once costumed an average scarecrow not far away.
Nathaniel was gone, and now there was only Crowe. The idea behind Crowe was to create a character that literally was Halloween. He was the living embodiment of the holiday itself, using as much corresponding imagery as possible. The 4 icons were used as a bridge to usher in this new icon as well. Crowe would also bring in an element that would eventually be used later on, a lantern, which traps souls. Fans of Fear will know the similarities. As we discussed before, all of the past unused icons have shown up at some point. Eddie, the Terror Queen, and Cindy have all had their place in the spotlight. Ever since Mike revealed his story for Nathaniel Crowe, there have been cries to bring the character to the event. Well, fans got their wish, but perhaps not in the way that they thought. For HHN 30, all of the past icons, both used and unused, with the exception of the Crypt Keeper, made an appearance. Yes, even Nathaniel Crowe. In Wicked Growth, Realm of the Pumpkin, the very nature of Halloween itself was well on full display, leaning on the traditions of Halloween like Crowe himself. This all culminated in the magnificent Pumpkin Lord, which was seen at the end of the house. HHN fans were quick to point out the similarities in Crowe's story and the house, but weren't quite sold on the Pumpkin Lord actually being Nathaniel Crowe himself. However, Nathaniel Crowe got his moment in the spotlight regardless. Nathaniel can be seen in the house as the dummy getting attacked by, yes, crows. He was in the barnhouse segment of the house, pleading as the crows attacked him. It's clear that the HHN team hasn't forgotten this would-be lost icon. As with most Halloween Horror Nights lost things, time will tell if we actually see him in the future. I hope you enjoyed this journey into the fog. I'm HHN Legacy. Thanks for watching.